To make these bows, you're going to first make corker ribbons. Corkers are just ribbons that are wrapped around dowels and then baked in the oven so that they maintain a curly shape. There are two sizes of dowels that work well for this. The 5/16 size is what I typically use because I feel it makes the corkers a little fuller. But you can also use the 1/4 inch size, which looks nice as well and is easier to find in the craft stores. I picked these ones up at Hobby Lobby. You will also need some clothespins to hold the ribbon on the dowels. For each stick you use, you'll need 2 clothespins. I'm using these mini size, but you can also use regular. Corkers are made from 3/8 inch size ribbon. Grosgrain ribbon typically works the best for this because it's more sturdy. As you roll the ribbon onto the sticks, be sure that you are rolling tightly and also periodically push the ribbon so that there aren't any gaps between the ribbon edges. Just so you know, I'm using longer sticks than the ones I showed you from those packages. Those are from the craft store, but these ones I purchased from Amazon and they are 16 inches long, which means I don't have to roll quite as many sticks. So just a tip, if possible, purchase the longest sticks that will fit in your oven or on your baking pan. Prior to baking, I like to spray my dowels down with hairspray because I feel the curl holds better if I do. This is completely optional, of course. Please note that one bow will take all of the dowels from one craft store dowel package. So if you're going to make several bows at one time, you're going to need several packages of dowels. Now transfer the sticks to a baking pan and bake them for 30 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Be sure to let the sticks cool completely before you start removing the ribbon. Once cooled, you should be able to easily slide the ribbon from the dowels, and the ribbon should maintain its curly shape without loosening too much. Corker pieces should be about 3 inches long, but it's perfectly fine to use any that are slightly shorter. As you can see here, mine are slightly longer. I don't know what I was thinking when I cut these. Be sure that you're cutting your corkers straight across the strand so that each cut end is flat. For this video, I'm using 36 corker pieces, but you can use anywhere from 30 to 45 pieces to make a nice full funky loopy bow. Now this is what is different about this tutorial. In my other videos, we use 3 ribbons. We are only using 2 ribbons for these bows. Because pumpkins and apples have a stem, we want to eliminate that 3rd ribbon that runs across the top of the bow. For this bow, I'm using 5/8 inch wide grosgrain ribbon for the base loops, but you can also use 7/8 inch or 1 inch wide ribbon, which you will see me also use towards the end of the video. The cutting measurements as well as a list of supplies are in the description. So just so you know, the main point of this video is to show you how to decorate funky loopy bows in fall themes. So what I'm doing here is just a sped up version of how to assemble a funky loopy bow. I already have other videos on my channel that explain the steps in creating one in much greater detail. So if you're new to making funky loopy bows, I suggest you start by watching those other videos first and then coming back because you might be a little lost because I'm not going to explain every step. The only thing I'm doing here is just demonstrating for the purposes of showing everyone how to make a funky loopy bow only using 2 base ribbons rather than 3 as we normally would. I'm using a 60mm French barrette here, but you can use one that is slightly smaller or slightly larger. To get started, tightly wrap the ribbon to the clip several times, leaving about a 1 inch to 2 inch long tail. Being that I'm using narrow ribbon, I am forming the bow loops to 1.5 inches tall. If you're using 7/8 inch ribbon or 1 inch ribbon, you'll form the bow loops to 2 inches tall. Secure each loop by wrapping around the barrette 3 times. As you form the loops, you want to keep them close together and towards the center of the barrette. You can always slide them over to the center if needed. The bows I'm creating in this video are going to be 4-loop bows, but you can make smaller bows by only forming 3 loops per bow. Once all 4 loops are made, run the needle through some of the threads on the bottom of the barrette to secure them in place. But do not cut your thread because we're not done with it yet. Now flip the barrette so that the thread is hanging on the right side. If you haven't already, divide your corkers into 3 equal piles. The space between the first 2 loops on the right is where we will attach the first corker pile. This step is usually pretty messy no matter what you do, but to help a little, I like to take my pile of corkers and pinch them at the center so they are easier to wrap. You can even twist the center a little as well, and this should help keep them in place while you get your thread around them. It is important to wrap the threads very tightly around the corker piles so that later on, individual corkers can't be pulled off of the bow. After wrapping each pile, again run the needle through the thread at the bottom of the clip so that the corkers stay secured tightly. After attaching all of the corkers, run the needle through the threads at the bottom of the clip one last time, and then form several knots and trim off any excess thread. I use the 2 loose ends from the ribbon lining on the top of the clip to cover up the threads that are on the bottom of the clip. To create the bow base, separate the two loops by spreading one loop over to the far left and one to the far right. Do this for all 4 loops. This part can be a little tricky. The idea is that you want to form a row of loops along the front of the bow and a nice even row of loops on the back of the bow as well. At this point in the process, you don't have to worry about getting them perfectly lined up. We will take care of that later on, and I promise you they will end up looking great. Next, I'm going to hairspray the bow. This is optional, but I feel this step helps the bow hold its shape for a lot longer, so I would recommend not skipping it. To speed up the drying, I usually blow dry the bow on the lowest fan setting and on no or low heat. You don't have to do this either. If you're not in a hurry, you can let it air dry. I'm just always in a hurry, it seems. This next step is how we're going to ensure that the loops sit nicely and neatly aligned in the front of the bow and in the back of the bow. We're going to do this by just applying a small dot of glue between each of the loops. You want to apply the glue towards the back of the loops or towards the middle of the loops, just not towards the front, so that they don't look so obviously glued. Next, I am trimming the corkers so that they are even and form a round shape. The key here is not to cut too much. Take your time. You can always trim more later if needed. Here I am finishing the ribbon ends by gluing them together and then trimming down and heat sealing them. The very last step is just heat sealing all of the corker ends. All of the hard work is over, and now we can get to the fun part, which is decorating the bows. For the white pumpkin bow, I'll be using 7/8 inch width brown ribbon for the pumpkin stem, a tan pipe cleaner to make a vine, several flower embellishments, and a little plaid bow tie that I already pre-made. To create the stem, make a single knot about 2 inches or so from the end of the ribbon. It is best to make the stem much longer than what you want the finished stem to be. The reason is, when you glue the stem down to the middle of the bow, a part of it is going to disappear into the fluffiness of the bow. So just make it longer, and you can always trim it down after it's glued. Once the knot is formed the way you want it, cut it from the ribbon roll. Then cut the ribbon edge at an angle so that it looks more stem-like. Figure out the right placement for the stem and then go ahead and glue it down. Next, I'm wrapping the pipe cleaner around a medium-sized marker so that it looks like a curly vine. It is a good idea to play around the placement of all the embellishments before committing to gluing them in place. Here is the finished white pumpkin bow. I think it would also be cute as an orange pumpkin or even a blue pumpkin. Just like with the white pumpkin, this apple bow is made with a 4-loop funky loopy bow using 5/8 inch width ribbon. I used solid red, but it would also be really cute in a solid yellow or in a light green color. The stem is made the same way as before, and I'm using a green leaf made from a sheet of glitter canvas. I got this canvas from Hobby Lobby, but you can substitute a number of different materials. I am also using a plaid little bow tie that I pre-made. I free cut the canvas into a leaf shape. Just be sure to cut 2 leaves if you're using something like I am that isn't double-sided, and then glue those 2 pieces together. I realized that I should not have made the bow tie red because it blended in too much with the corkers, so I decided to change the shape of the bow to make it stand out more. I used a needle and thread to cinch the loops together at the top so that it would have a more interesting look and maybe stand out a little bit more against the red corkers. Here's the finished red apple bow. These last 2 bows are made using 7/8 inch width ribbon as the base loops. The cutting measurements will be in the description. For the jack-o'-lantern face, I sketched the shapes with a pencil onto the back of black glitter canvas, and then I cut them out. The stem for this bow is different this time. I cut a 4-inch length of brown ribbon and then glued the ends on top of each other. The most difficult part of this bow is attaching the mouth. The easiest way I found was to crease the center and align the crease in between the 2nd and 3rd base loops of the bow. Then apply glue in sections, first the center and then each of the sides. Applying the eyes is a bit easier. Just be mindful of spreading glue all over the corkers. Use as thin of a layer of glue as possible. I'm putting my bow on the stem of the pumpkin, but you can easily create a boy pumpkin by applying the eyes and the mouth a bit higher on the bow and then putting a bow tie under the mouth. I think it would be a really cute idea to make both a boy and a girl pumpkin as a bow pair. Here is the finished jack-o'-lantern bow, and then here is the harvest pumpkin variation with no face. I used a green tinsel pipe cleaner to make the vine using the same method as with the white pumpkins vine, and I applied a leaf using the same method as with the apple. The stem is the same as the jack-o'-lantern, and then I put a mini bow similar to the jack-o'-lanterns on one of the middle loops at the bottom. If you enjoyed the video, of course I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel and give the video a like, as well as let me know what bow from the video is your favorite in the comment section. The feedback helps to get my video shown to more people, so I thank you in advance for your support.